Three things. Three things. It's like they wanted you to lose. Norse could not get more complicated. Villages that can't build. Military units that can. And don't get me started with these things. Let's take a look at how the North Germanic peoples of Scandinavia tackled the Wild West of Age of Mythology. Starting off with the most complicated economy of the entire original four pantheons. You have two villager types, the Gatherer and the Dwarf. Contrary to popular belief, the Gatherer is a balanced villager costing 50 food and doesn't actually have a negative gather rate on gold. When compared to the Greeks, the Gatherer is bringing in approximately 90% the value of a Greek villager. The Dwarf costs 60 gold. When gathering gold, it brings in 14% more than that of a Greek villager. But when subject to the tiresome work of gathering food or wood, is bringing in a sorry 70% of a Greek villager. In other words, it is perfectly fine to put your gatherers on gold, but do everything you can to keep your macros steady so you don't have to take dwarfs off gold. Another cheeky tidbit here is that your villagers can be converted into a berserk to fight for you at a cost. It's perfect for defending a raid or going for a big push. Be careful you can't turn them back into villagers, so it is effectively you killing your own economy. Now onto this bad boy, or should I say good boy, a moving drop site that can take all resources. Yes, please. The big drawback is that it costs double the price of a regular storehouse at 50 food and 50 wood. That being said, you often only need a max of 3 or 4 of these throughout a game, so you are probably getting the better of the deal more games than not. The secret to this guy is to simply ensure that you right-click on the resource that your villagers are gathering, so that if the resource depletes, the ox cart will move to the next closest resource. The Norse gods only want one thing, and it's disgusting. No, just jokes. They only want bloodshed. Okay, it's kind of disgusting, but seriously, if it bleeds, the Norse gods reward you. A villager shooting a hunter bull or shanking a chicken, that's favor. A wild axe-wielding Scandinavian swinging that thing through a Greek man's back, favor. A giant with an even bigger club deciding to kick a dwarf, favor. Let's talk numbers. A gatherer shooting a non-aggressive hunter bull is getting 1 favor every 40 HP worth of damage. A gatherer shanking a herder bull is getting 1 favor every 4 HP of damage. Yes, chickens are also herdables. I'm not exactly sure how this works, but when a gatherer or a dwarf shoots a serpent from Anubis's Plague of Serpents god power, you get 1 favor for every 20 HP of damage. In other words, if you kill an entire Plague of Serpents GP with your villagers, you are netting 32 favor. The final tidbit here is if you take 5 gatherers and shift click on all the snakes, you will kill all the snakes in around 26 seconds, a loss of 130 seconds of idle time and around the same amount of resources. Would you trade 130 seconds of idle time for 32 favor? I know I would. Come at me, Anubis lovers. On top of all of this, the Norse villagers can build, but only a select few buildings. The farm, the house, and the ox cart. Norse infantry do the rest, and everything build at the same speed as a Greek villager. Norsemen also skimp out on the building materials. Their buildings cost 10% less wood, but also have 10% less HP. Okay. Now for the fun stuff. How much favor do we get for fighting? The gods only care about actual damage dealt. If the enemy unit has tons of armor, they only care about how much that unit bled. It's actually quite simple. For human units and heroes, every 80 damage gets you 1 favor. Myth units are basically gathering at 50% of a human unit, so every 160 damage they deal gets you 1 favor. The only exception to this is Hunt, which is coming in half as fast, requiring 160 damage to get 1 favor. For some reason, the Norse gods also appreciate heroes and will reward the Norsemen 0.01 favor a second for every hero that is alive. The Norse gods also get upset and get less and less pleased by your bloodshed as the game goes on. After you gain more than 100 favor total, the rate at which you gain favor from combat will slow. This reduction increases linearly between 100 and 300 total favor gathered, reducing the rate to 0.5 times at 300 plus total favor gathered. Now, let's talk the unique roster. With the Archaic Age comes the Temple, like everyone else. It's needed to unlock the Classical Age after all. This building produces the Hersir, a massable infantry hero unit. That means while this unit can counter heroes nicely, Unlike the Greek heroes or the priest, it takes bonus damage from units that are good versus infantry. Beware Axeman, Hippaspis, Fire Archer. In the classical age, they get a Longhouse. It can train the Herdman, a hard counter to cavalry. The Throwing Axeman, a hard counter to infantry. And the Berserk, a generalist infantry unit with high speed. You also get the Great Hall in the classical age. This can train Hersir as well as the Temple, but also unlocks the Raiding Cavalry, an incredibly fast but fragile cavalry unit that soft counters archers. As the name suggests, it's perfect for raiding. When you get to the Heroic Age, you can build the Godi, a ranged hero. Similar to the Hersir, this hero also takes bonus damage from units good against archers. You also get the Mighty Jarl, Norse's tanky generalist cavalry unit. You also get the Dog. Now this is built in the Archaic Age, which obviously you can build fishing ships from, but in the Classical Age, you get the Longboat, the Drekki, the Dragon ship, and the Transport ship. In the Heroic Age, you get access to the Kraken, which has a special ability, Capsize, which kills the target in one hit. It has to be a ship. It can also throw land units, which damages both the thrown unit and the units close to where it lands. In the Mythic Age, you get access to the Yorman Elva. Its special attack is Wake of Destruction, which launches non-hero ships and does 150 hack damage in an AoE of 6. In the Heroic Age, you get access to the Hillfort, Norse's castle. It is home to one of Norse's best units, the Huskarl. The Huskarl flips the script on the Counter Triangle, an infantry unit that hard counters archers. It's fast and has huge pierce armor, but best of all, it costs wood, so it's super easy to mass up. You can also get the Portable Ram, a fragile but fast melee siege weapon. In the Mythic Age, you can also build the Ballista, a long-range siege weapon that deals a pretty hefty amount of pierce damage as well, making it perfect for not only killing buildings, but also enemy armies when protected well. The one thing I'd like to touch on before moving is to bring up how good Norse are at walling. Normally, walls are pretty expensive, not the upfront cost, but the idle time from the villagers. Norse doesn't have to deal with this and can get the entirety of a map walled off incredibly quickly when given some time to breathe. So when given the chance, take it. Norse was the first Pantheon in Age of Mythology Retold to receive a DLC, and as such has 4 major gods: Thor, Odin, Loki, and Freyr, or Frey, and 15 minor gods. So buckle in while we break it all down. Thor is the god of thunder, lightning, and the skies. He starts with dwarves instead of gatherers. His dwarves also cost 10 less gold, and they gather 25% faster on food and wood, making them almost as good as gatherers. As economic upgrades work off the base gather rates, the more teched up your villagers get, the better gatherers will be relative to your dwarves. So be careful how many you build. That being said, it's perfectly fine to go heavy on dwarves early and start building your gatherers later. Thor also gets access to the Dwarven Armory, a unique armory that can be built in the Archaic Age and has access to 3 extra armory upgrades, giving Thor tier 4 armor. On top of this, armory upgrades are 10% cheaper, and each time you research one, you get a free dwarf. He also gets a unique upgrade that can be researched in the armory, the Hammer of Thunder. This technology gives 15% extra damage for your Hersir and increases their favor gather rate by 50%. So you go up to 0.015 favor a second. He also gets the God Power Dwarven Mine, which will create a gold mine when cast. The gold mine gets better relative to your age. The Archaic Age is 500 gold. The Classical Age is 1,000 gold with a 10% boost. Heroic Age is 3,000 gold with a 25% boost. The Mythic Age is 6,000 gold with a 50% boost. And the Wonder Age is 7,500 with a 75% boost. On top of this, the recast is relatively cheap as well at only 50 favor and is regularly recast in high-level games. Odin is the god of war, magic, and power. His villagers gather hunt 10% faster. His Great Hall units generate 25% favor in battle. His human units regenerate HP at 0.4 HP a second. A little tidbit on this is, unlike healing, regeneration is not affected by being idle or in combat. It's always 0.4 HP a second. He also gets 2 ravens to scout for him that spawn when the temple is first built. If a raven dies, it will be back alive 180 seconds later. If both die, the second one must wait for the first to respawn before its timer starts. Odin also gets the technology Hamask, which increases Berserk's speed by 10%. and gives a small 50% bonus versus myth units. Don't get tricked by the bonus. Your berserks will not counter myth units, but they will perform better versus them. The real bonus here is the 10% speed, moving the berserk up to 5.25 speed. It's perfect for raiding, side builds, and catching your opponent out of position. Odin also gets the god power Great Hunt, which produces new huntable animals containing up to 2 times the amount of food contained within all the animals affected. If cast by itself, it'll spawn elk with half the maximum food of the current age. Like Thor's Dwarven Mine, this also gets stronger as you age up. In the Archaic Age, you get 500 food, Classical Age, 600 food, Heroic Age, 1200 food, Mythic Age, 2100 food, and the Wonder Age is 3500 food. Loki is the god of trickery and shapeshifting. His human soldiers and heroes have 10% extra counter damage. What does this mean? Well, for example, his throwing axemen, instead of doing 3x bonus versus infantry, they'll do 3.3 X bonus versus him. An easy way to think about this is that Loki gets a free weapons upgrade when his units are being controlled well. Buildings are also constructed 10% faster, ox carts are 50% cheaper, and transforming gatherers and dwarves into berserks is 50% cheaper. The key bonus for Loki, however, is that all human soldiers and heroes work towards summoning myth units in battle. Simply put, fight and you get a myth unit. You wanted more than that? Okay. Strap in. This ability activates upon reaching the Classical Age. Then, a Norse myth unit equal to your age or below, excluding the Archaic Age, is randomly selected at equal odds. Unfortunately, it is impossible to know which myth unit is going to come, so embrace the randomness. The damage required to spawn this unit is based on its total resource cost, 1 per food, wood, or gold, and 10 per favor. So if we take a troll, for example, you'd need to deal 160 damage for the wood and 150 damage for the favor, a total of 310 damage. Well, this is not exactly correct, but a Herser contributes 0.5 times their damage. So he would have to deal 620 damage, and a human soldier contributes only 0.15x of their damage. So they'd have to contribute 2067 damage to spawn that lowly troll. Once the damage is reached, the myth unit spawns next to the final unit to contribute damage, even if you're at full population. Then the process restarts. In other words, just fight, okay? Loki gets the technology Eyes in the Forest. It gives huge line of sight around resources that your units are close to, and that includes this good boy too. The line of sight starts at 10 and increases by 2 per second up to a maximum of 30. If the unit leaves that area, it will decay by 2 per second until the revealer disappears. Finally, Loki gets the god power Spy. This is used on an enemy unit to give you 27 line of sight and can only be seen by you and your allies. Your opponent has no way to know when this god power is used, but be careful. If you run straight at your opponent's base, see one villager and immediately leave, they may have an inkling you're up to some funny business. The 4th Norse god is Freyr, the god of fertility and kingship. I believe he is only available through the premium edition. He gets a whopping 50% reduction to all his technologies, with the drawback of them taking 150% longer to research. This can generally get circumvented by building extra buildings to get all the technologies in at roughly the same amount of time as your opponent can. For example, building multiple armories allows Freyr to get his 3 armor technologies in faster and cheaper than an opponent who only uses 1. The bonus does not affect age ups, with the exception of Secrets of the Titans, which is also half price. Freyr also has 10% bonus damage for his hill forts and hill fort units. He can repair for free, and his dwarfs and gatherers can also repair. Freyr's unique technology is Freyr's Gift. On the surface, it is incredibly expensive at 800 food and 150 favor. However, with Freyr's bonus, this becomes 400 food, and every technology that is researched will lower the favor by 5. The technology increases all units' HP by 10%, which is insanely powerful. I recommend picking this one up after you've gotten to the Mythic Age and grabbed your champion technologies, economic technologies, and armory technologies. Finally, Freyr has arguably the most powerful Archaic Age god power in the game. It's so powerful that it is even mentioned as a god bonus. Gullinbursti summons a giant golden boar, classed as a hero. It can only be cast near yours or an ally's town center or citadel center. The village center does not count. And as it moves away from the town center, it slows its speed by 0.563 per 10 meters traveled. At 100 meters distance, it will no longer slow down and will have a speed of 2.27 speed. When the Gullenbursty spawns, a shockwave occurs around him, launching all human soldiers in 6 radius flying. This starts at 10 damage in Archaic Age and increases by 10 for every age you go up. Gullenbursty also increases in HP damage and duration based on age. His special ability is Tusk Sweep with a cooldown of 10 seconds and is a 2.5 meter long, 170 degree cone melee attack. It deals 10, 40, 60, 80 damage based on age and stuns basically everything for 4 seconds. Gullenbursty is best when comboed with Tempest and is arguably one of the deadliest god power combos in the game and can easily level an entire army almost by itself. There are 4 classical age gods available to the Norse Pantheon, starting with Freya, the goddess of love and sorcery. She is available to Thor, Odin, and Freyr, and comes with the powerful Valkyrie, the horse-riding servant of Odin. She doesn't come with a unique special ability, but she can heal at 7.5 HP a second. Her main strength is her speed at a base of 6, making her a terrifying raiding force. When upgraded with the technology Dizablot, the Valkyrie turns into the Shield Maiden Valkyrie and gains an extra 50% extra damage and heals 33% faster. This technology is basically worth grabbing immediately if you are rushing, as it can catch an opponent off guard and kill a villager who otherwise might have escaped. Other than that, it's a must grab after you have around 2 or 3 Valkyries total. Thundering Hooves is the next unique technology and comes with a massive 10% speed increase to the already speedy Norse cavalry. It also affects the Valkyrie as well, plus an extra 10% HP added as a nice little bonus. In other words, if you go Freyr, you best be building cavalry because the Tis tech is huge. Finally, Sesrumnir gives 10% HP to heroes as well as enables the Godi in the classical age. This is the perfect answer to pesky flying units. Finally, Freya has access to Forest Fire. The potential for damage with this god power is up there with some Mythic Age god powers, but good luck getting your opponent to stay still and just take the damage. Casting it on a forest will do 4 divine damage per tree with an AoE of 6 with no fall off damage, and each tree burns for 10 seconds. In other words, one tree potentially can do 40 AoE divine damage. Yeah, that's a lot. One cool trick with this god power is to drop a sneaky wall or house to lock your enemy onto the forest without an escape, guaranteeing early game kills. Next is Forsetti, the god of justice. Available to Thor and Loki. He brings the mighty Troll, a slow-ranged myth unit. His special ability is Boulder Toss. It has a long 3-second wind-up, but deals massive damage in an area, and all units hit will be sent flying. He can also grow another head with the Cave Troll ability. This doubles the damage of Boulder Toss as well as increases the area damage. When used correctly, you can potentially erase an entire backline of archers. I recommend to turn off autocast on this special ability and trigger it mid-fight to not only surprise your opponent, but also get maximum area damage done. Forsetti also comes with the Hall of Thanes, which boosts infantry and hero move speed by 5%. The technology Dwarven Breastplate is going to reduce the vulnerability to hack by 15% for both the Herdman and the Berserk. In other words, Forsetti can create some incredibly strong Berserks and Hersa, which move very quickly. Finally, you get Healing Spring, an invulnerable building that can be captured by an opponent if left untended to. It heals every allied unit in its radius at 3 HP a second. If moving or in combat, this healing is reduced by 25%. This god power can often be seen used aggressively, but I personally think you should be thinking defense with this god power. The recast is really not worth using, as even if you put 2 together, you're actually getting way less healing than you would expect. So spam the trolls or save favor for the heroic age. Heimdall, the god of vigilance, is available to both Odin and Loki. He comes with a support unit, the Einherji. He is slow, has some siege potential with his crush damage, but his main strength is the Horn Blast unique ability, which buffs the speed and damage by 1.5 times of nearly every allied unit within 10 meters of the Einherji. This boost decays over 5 seconds linearly back to normal. You can upgrade the Einherji with the technology Yalahorn. This increases their attack and hit points by 25%, as well as adding 5 seconds of boost to the horn. The hard part of the Einherji is that you don't want to have the horns overlapping in a battle. Perhaps 2.5 seconds apart unupgraded and 5 seconds apart upgraded is a good rule of thumb. The other oddity in this unit is sometimes your army will decide to take matters into their own hands and run around like crazy instead of fighting. So watch for this and issue another attack move command if this happens to get them back on track. Safeguard is the next unique technology, which makes the hit points of your sentry towers and walls 25% stronger, as well as making buildings cost 50% less gold. In other words, town centers, hill fort, towers, and walls are a lot cheaper. The final unique technology to Heimdall is Rigstula, one of the best early game unique upgrades. This increases your building, train, and research rate by 20%. It builds units faster and research technologies faster. And yes, this includes villages and age ups. When playing Heimdall, I recommend just pre-queuing this tech in your town center. It's the main reason to go for Heimdall, and there's no other early game technology or unit that comes close to the value of this technology. Finally, the god power for Heimdall is Undermine, a god power that instantly kills towers and walls and damages other buildings. It does 66.7 crush damage per second with 0.25x versus unfinished settlements and farm, 0.5x versus houses, and 0.75x versus town centers, and 1.5x versus castles. It lasts 15 seconds, so the maximum damage you can do is 1000 crush to a castle, or a little less than 33% of its HP. The main use I see for this god power is to either help kill a temple with an early game rush, as well as a tower or two, or to deny your opponent's first couple of buildings, as well as killing off their towers. Recasting this god power to take out a building is generally not worth it compared to building myth units. However, if you are full pop, it's okay to do this. Why not add the extra oomph? The DLC 4th Classical Age minor god is Ullr, the god of oaths and archery. And DLC privilege hits best here with his archer myth unit, the Draugr. On the surface, this guy doesn't look all that. However, his projectiles pierce through enemy units, practically increasing his DPS by a very large amount. He also has the special ability Scattershot, which shoots 4 projectiles in a cone and does 20 pierce damage and 8 damage, also piercing through enemy units. You can also upgrade him with Valgaldir, which adds 20% damage as well as 5 range to this bad boy. Of course, it takes a while to research with Freyr at 50 seconds, so make sure you just pre-queue this early on if you plan to build more than one of these bad boys. The simple way to understand how the Draugr works is more. You realistically can't go wrong with him, but you do need a front line. If you leave him naked, they'll die very quickly to enemy heroes charging in. The actual difficulty with building Draugr is the decision between building them and the technology Ring Oak. This technology makes your god power Asgardian Bastion cost only 50 favor to recast. Asgardian Bastion, on the other hand, gives you a hill fort. You do have to build this up. However, it slowly builds by itself at 250 seconds if left alone, but its self-building speed doubles in the Heroic Age, doubles in the Mythic Age. It has more HP, more DPS, and more range than a regular hill fort. So yeah, more hill forts or more Draugr. Difficult decision to make. On top of this, you also get Servants of Glory, which increases the Longhouse's unit's speed by 5%. It also allows them to increase their speed while staying idle by 1% a second up to 30%. This effect decays at 0.5% per second. There's probably some situations where this is really good, but the 5% speed is more than enough to say, give me this tech. If you want to be cute and send some berserks to hang out outside your opponent's base for 30 seconds before charging in to attempt to kill some villagers, go for it. But to be honest, I think it's probably more worth it to just do things rather than not doing things. Finally, you have, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation, I don't know, is it Dalir or Dalir? I don't know if the Y is silent or not, which boosts train and research time by 20%, as well as enabling the portable RAM in the Classical Age. This is the most terrifying upgrade to face, as siege in the Classical Age normally isn't possible. Grab this technology when your opponent is being greedy and punish them with a few rams to take down their defenses. The Heroic Age also brings with it 4 minor gods. Bragi, the god of poetry and scolds, is available to Thor, Loki, and Freyr, and comes with the original golden boar, the battle boar, This tanky, speedy menace of a myth unit has the special ability Buck, which does 20 damage in a cone and sends units flying away from it. A general rule for Norse is to aim towards building your heroic age myth. What I mean by this is take a nice fight or two in the classical age, get some favor, and then get to the heroic age. Maybe build a second temple and organize your economy to be prepared to spend those resources. The battle boar is perfect for Thor, as you can easily move some dwarves from wood or food over to gold to be able to prepare for the battle boar spammage. Of course, for Freyr and Loki, don't be afraid to put some extra gatherers onto gold either. In an actual fight, these guys are tanky enough that you can almost just set and forget, but it's also always worth it to use their speed to run away from pesky enemy heroes. The unique technologies are Call of Valhalla, boosting Berserk's hit points by 10% and giving 0.5 favor back upon death. This technology is perfect to mix with Forsetti's Hall of Thanes, as well as Dwarven Breastplate, or Ullr's Servants of Glory, and is obviously amazing when comboed with the Mythic Berserk upgrades as well. I don't think this upgrade by itself is worth spamming Berserks for, so plan your gold path wisely if you want to pick it up. Thurzaz's Rune is a nifty myth unit technology which gives them 10% extra speed as well as a regeneration rate of 0.5. Normally 0.5 HP a second is pretty good, but myth units have a huge HP pool and Norse actually has a lot of methods to heal, so this ends up being more of a slight HP boost practically in a fight than anything else. The speed is great for your battle boars, so go to town on enemy town centers later in the game or random side builds dealing with those. Or better yet, boost your Valkyries to become arguably the most effective myth unit raider in the game. You also get Swinery, which boosts the Herdman's bonus versus cavalry by 2, as well as giving them a modest 10% extra damage. It's the perfect upgrade to help deal with cavalry, and this is perfect against cavalry-specific gods like Poseidon or Tsukuyomi, but also amazing to help deal with the Migdol units of Egyptian. Unlike Call of Valhalla, this upgrade is always good for the Herdman. If you are building Herdman, get this upgrade. Finally, you also get a water technology, Long Serpent. This allows your longboats to grow as they inflict damage. There are 5 tiers of boosting, and each tier increases their HP by 10% and gives an extra projectile, increasing their damage. Obviously a worthwhile upgrade on water maps, but I haven't seen this grabbed all too often in competitive play. Finally, the god power is Flaming Weapons. This simply increases the damage of all human soldiers, heroes, and ships by 60%. It lasts for 45 seconds. The best way to use this is normally in some type of timing attack while comboing with some siege and battle boars. You can also combo it with your Mythic Age god powers for massive damage. The one thing I see people go wrong with when using this god power is just saying, oh, my army has got flaming weapons, I need to fight, I can get as much damage done regardless of the position. Even with a 60% boost of damage, this doesn't mean you can just win everything. So feel free to run if it doesn't look like the fight's going well. Skadi is the goddess of winter and hunting and is available to Thor and Odin. She comes with the chilling Frost Giant, a slow, tanky frontline myth unit. It has the special ability Frigid Breath, which freezes a target in place for 20 seconds and can basically hit everything except for flying units and heroes. He also can be upgraded with the technology Rime. This increases the Frost Giant's HP by 33%, damage by 20%, and also reduces his ability recharge time by 25%. Similar to the Battle Boar, this guy is a perfect myth unit to aim for in the Heroic Age. Costing gold, you want to organize your economy to afford him, and banking favor in the Classical Age, specifically for this guy, is a great idea. His other technologies are Huntress's Axe, which increases throwing axemen's range by 1 and makes it so that axes can never miss. So it's basically ballistics on steroids. You still need ballistics though for your myth units, Godi, and warships. So it's not like you skip that, but you can skip it for a while if you're not building those other units. Winter Harvest is arguably the best economic upgrade in terms of food in the game. It increases all food by 10% and farms by 20%. This technology is an immediate pickup for me if I have the favor. Finally, Arctic Winds is the naval technology for Skadi. It allows Dreki to slow targets' movement speed and attack speed by 15% per attack, and upon being hit 7 times, the target is completely frozen for 20 seconds. This technology works wonders on maps like Anatolia or Midgard and is well worth investing into for complete water dominance. The god power is Frost, which when cast will freeze all enemy units excluding flying units in the 23-meter range. Frozen units also get their vulnerability to all damage types, including divine damage, reduced by 99%. So no forest fire plus frost combos, unfortunately. There's three main uses for this god power. One is to use the god power on half of your enemy's army and fight the other half. Practically speaking, this is really hard to do, as your units will end up attacking frozen units rather than the ones they can actually damage, whereas the enemy units will just attack your units for full damage. So I would suggest to use this god power on everything and build defenses around the enemy army in order to kill it when it unfreezes, or the premium usage is actually on an entirety of an enemy army and their villages and just go kill something else like buildings or other villages. Njord is the god of wind and prosperity and is available to Odin and Loki. He comes with the towering mountain giant who is perfect for kicking dwarves. Okay, but seriously, the mountain giant is a tanky siege myth unit who is also a decent fighter as well. He has two special abilities. Bludgeon is a wind-up attack only usable on buildings, which does 400 crush damage. And the other ability is literally called Punt Dwarf, which targets dwarves and launches them, dealing 100 hack damage. You can upgrade the mountain giant with Jotuns, which increases the mountain giant's hit points by 20% and melee damage by 25%. Movement speed as well by 25% and makes them huge. It also enables Punt, which can be used on human soldiers and villagers, doing 250 damage. It does have a cooldown of 40 seconds, but this is basically a one-hit kill. So yeah, these guys kick. I was going to say slap, but kick seemed appropriate. The other thing holding these things back is their food cost at 250 food. It's quite expensive. So the basic criteria for whether or not to go for the mountain giant is, do I have a food income source that isn't farms? Fish, hunt, herbables, all count. So if you do, go for them. They are my pick for the best heroic age Norse myth unit in the game. The other technologies are Ring Giver, which gives the Jarl plus 20% hit points, as well as a bonus versus myth units. Yes, I said 20% hit points. Did I mention before that the Jarl already has heaps of HP? Well, now it has even more. Then you have Vikings, which adds 1 divine damage to your raiding cavalry and also adds a 10 gold bounty to the raiding cavalry. You can think of this as if your raiding cavalry was to earn 1 favor, they would also earn 10 gold. Njord is strange because it does come with some amazing technologies for your cavalry, but Vikings simply isn't worth it if you don't have thundering hooves. So when playing Loki, it's an easy choice. Just make Jarls, but when you combine Freya's thundering hooves and Vikings, things do start to slap pretty hard. That being said, Jarls also benefit from thundering hooves, so they slap even harder. The only thought I have around when to grab Vikings over Jarls and build raiding cavalry is the situation where you're already at 20 plus raiding cavalry from the classical age. Otherwise, just make Jarls. You also get Wrath of the Deep, which improves the Kraken's HP by 40% and reduces its ability recharge time by 25%. Finally, you get the god power Walking Woods. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot that is amazing packed into Njord, and Walking Woods is probably the least alluring part of this god. It converts up to 7 trees into controllable walking trees. These are slow, not really tanky siege myth units. The recast cost is relatively cheap. However, considering how good mountain giants are, recasting this god power could be considered trolling, though I'll forgive you if you have 0 food in the bank. The DLC heroic age minor god is Aegir, the god of the sea and storms, and is only available to Freyr. He comes with the rock giant. As the only wood-based heroic age myth unit to Norse, this unit is the most consistent of the 4. He is slow, tanky, and doesn't do a lot of damage. But his special ability, Jotun Modder, is amazing. It is a taunt and a buff, plain and simple. All units surrounding the rock giant will be forced to target it for the next 5 seconds, and the rock giant will get a reduction of vulnerability to hack, pierce, and crush by 50%. The real secret to getting the maximum value out of this unit is using its special ability manually. Run in with the giant into the middle of the fight and click the taunt. The next giant, 5 seconds later, etc., etc. On top of this, if you are fighting against the giant, don't forget to retarget your units after the taunt is over. You can also upgrade the rock giant with Granite Maw. This gives 20% extra damage to the rock giant, as well as enabling the rock giant to eat buildings to regenerate hit points. Yum. One hidden weakness to the rock giant is his crush armor, which can be taken advantage of by siege weapons or siege myth units, so be careful of stray scarabs or behemoths. The unique technology to Aegir is Feasts of Renown, which enables town centers, fortresses, and village centers to heal at 1 HP a second, as well as gives a food trickle of 0.5 food a second to the aforementioned build. One of the main game plans for Freyr is to spam hill forts, and the synergy with this technology is off the charts. 9 waves makes heroes and siege move 10% faster and do 20% more damage, and Grasp of Ran enables dragon ships, the siege ship, to spawn a kraken every 500 damage dealt. This is not 500 damage dealt by all siege ships, but just one siege ship. It's quite hard to get this damage done in a practical game, and no, it doesn't work on buildings, sadly. I must say, I've tried to do this on Mediterranean when it was in the map pool and didn't have much luck. Finally, his god power is Tempest, a storm that affects enemy buildings, economic units, and military units. Each shard inflicts 5 pierce damage and 5 divine damage, doing less to villagers and more to build. Each hit slows the target's move speed and attack speeds cumulatively by 20% for 11 seconds. When hit 5 times in this window, the target is completely frozen for 20 seconds. You can expect around 140 shards. So yeah, this is the perfect engage tool. Defensive tool as well, and just a banger of a god power all around. Like I said before, combo it with Ghoul and Bursty for maximum effectiveness. There are 4 Mythic Age minor gods as well. The first of which is Tyr, the god of warfare and protection. Available to Thor, Odin, and Loki. He comes with the Fenris Wolf Brood, a brawling, raiding mythic unit perfect for beefing up your army and dealing with death balls later in the game. Doesn't have a special ability, rather an aura type ability, which increases speed and damage based on how many other Fenris wolves are in the area. You get 10% extra hack damage up to a maximum of 50% and 5% speed up to a maximum of 25%. Basically, this unit is a go cause chaos behind enemy lines. Then, when the enemy reacts to try and deal with them, run them back to the main fight and help kill the hero-less army. There are only 2 unique technologies for Tyr, but they both slap. Berserker Gang is the main technology that ties together the Berserk-focused late game. It gives the Berserk 35% lifesteal, and when comboed with Forsetti and Bragi, this thing pops off. You also get Bravery, which boosts your Huskarl's melee attack damage by 20%, and more importantly, gives them a 1.25x bonus versus buildings. A fast building killing infantry unit, you say? Yes, this thing is amazing. Combo it with Hall of Thanes, and you can cause so much havoc with side builds and attacks. Finally, you get Fimbulwinter. It spawns uncontrollable Fimbulwinter wolves all over the map. Spawns up to a maximum of 60 wolves and focuses spawning unallied settlements. If less than 40 wolves spawn, it will select an unfriendly settlement and spawn an additional 8 wolves on it. Most of the time, people just cast this immediately upon reaching the Mythic Age, but if you can combo it with an attack on an enemy town center or an unclaimed settlement, you can get yourself a nice little boost to your army, as well as stopping your opponent's income, so reinforcements will be few and far between. Balder is the god of beauty and kindness, and is available to Thor and Odin. He comes with the terrifying Fire Giant. Why terrifying? Well, his special ability, Firestorm, does 180 hack, 90 crush, and has 6 projectiles at an AoE of 4. This is another myth unit that I think loses a lot of value from the autocast special ability system. So turn it off as to not accidentally waste it on the one unit running in first. And then when you're ready in the fight, turn it on all of the fire giants at once and race a backline of archers or infantry unit. The fire giant is slow and relatively squishy, so be careful to not leave them out alone by themselves. There are only 2 unique technologies to Balder as well. Sons of Sleipnir, which increases cavalry's damage by 20% and gives them an extra bonus versus archers. This is actually a gigantic boost to Jarl's effectiveness versus archers, as they don't have any boost versus archers in the first place. You also get Dwarven Augur, which increases the portable ram's speed by 10%, their damage by 20%, and reduces their train time by 25%. This technology is perfect to set up for late game ram raids where you tear down entire bases in a matter of moments. It's also great to pair with the god power Ragnarok, which converts all of your gatherers and dwarves into heroes of Ragnar. All the resources these units are carrying automatically goes into your stockpile, so there's no need to force drop them before clicking the button. However, it's still a very all-in god power. I recommend having a trade route of at least 20 strong before thinking about clicking this button. The best time to use this is often when gold mines are running low in order to break through and cut off a enemy trade route and win the game. Just be really careful with this god power. I've seen a lot of won games lost and not many lost games won by this god power. Hel is the goddess of the underworld and is available to Loki and Freyr and unlocks all the giants except for the rock giant. You also get access to the technology Rampage, which makes myth units train near instant. This is perfect for a single unit to sneak behind enemy lines, drop a temple, and then pump out myth units to get a side raid. You also get Granite Blood, which increases the mountain giant and rock giant's HP by 20%, and the frost giant and fire giant's HP by 40%. The only real sick combo with this tech is for Loki to grab Jotuns plus Granite Blood for your mountain giants. Otherwise, I recommend just building fire giants. The god power for Hel is the mighty Nidhogg, a flying dragon that breathes fire. Its regular attack has 8 AoE and leaves a burning fire that lasts for 5 seconds, damaging all that stands in it for 3 divine damage. He also has the special ability Blazing Strafe, which hits enemy objects in a 6x3 meter area for around 52.1 divine damage. The ability has a massive cooldown of 90 seconds and is a little bit finicky to use, so watch carefully. Basically, you want to use the ability right in front of the Nidhogg if you want him to use it right away. The ability is perfect for escaping massive damage or diving into deal massive damage in of itself. Also, for killing pesky dwarves that run away. The final Mythic Age Norse god is Vidar, god of vengeance and resilience. He is also available to Freyr and comes with the Fafnir, a land-bound, gold-loving dragon. This unit is so powerful, the developers said that your opponent should be rewarded with 250 gold if they manage to slay this beast. He has no special ability, but his regular attack pierces similar to the Draugr, and he has an aura that deals 1 divine damage per second to all in a 4-meter radius. Many people say that this unit feels not worth it, with its downside being so severe, but to tell you the truth, when I build it, it always seems to pop off for me. Perhaps the best bet is to just be a little bit more careful with him. Vidar is loaded with unique technologies as well. He gets Twilight of the Gods, which boosts human soldiers' hit points by 10% and gives them a bonus versus heroes of 0.2x. He also gets Avenging Spirit, which allows Herser to get stronger the more damage they deal. 50, 150, and 300 are the thresholds, and each gives them plus 20% damage respect. Silent Resolve enables an idle stacking bonus for your berserks. Basically, while idle, the berserk's damage will increase by 0.25% per second to a maximum of 30% after 120 seconds. When they move, the effect decays by 0.1% per second. In my opinion, this tech is not worth it. Similarly to Servants of Glory, in a competitive game, your units are always going to be on the move, so you won't see much value out of this. Don't confuse this tech though with Fury of the Fallen, as this one is the Berserker gang to Vidar and enables the late game Berserks of Freyr to pop off. When a Berserk dies, it will increase nearby Berserk's damage by 15% and stacks. The boost lasts for 7.5 seconds. In other words, Servants of Glory, Hall of Valhalla, Twilight of the Gods, and Freyr's Gift, all stacked together with this technology, make for one of the most powerful human units in the game. To top it all off, you also get the god power Inferno, which is a literal nuke. It summons the great flaming wolf Fenrir, who appears after 1.5 seconds and runs in the direction of your choice for 4.3 seconds, then explodes. Fenrir deals 120 hack, 320 crush in an AoE of 8 while he moves, and when he explodes, deals 175 hack, 2000 crush in a 25 area of effect. He also reveals the map to all players, so everyone can see the fireworks. Well, there you have it. The Norse Pantheon. Did I miss something? Hopefully not. If I did, let me know in the comments section below. And if you have any nifty tips and tricks for Norse, Let me know as well. Which Pantheon do you guys want to see next?